I mean, I had a friend when I went home and visited one time. I'm sitting there and he says, he says about my Christianity, well, I'm glad that's right for you. No, he's toying with Buddhism and he's toying with Eastern religions. I said, Keith, I said, this doesn't work. I said, you know what? I've been born again. And I said, if I have found the God that saves sinners, this doesn't work. You can't just say, well, we're glad for you. I said, no. There's a God who created all this. There's a God we have to answer to at the end. There's a judgment day coming. And it's not one thing's right for you and another thing's right for me. I said, if what I'm saying is true, it's true and it is the truth. And we all have to answer to this God. And there's nobody bowing out. There's nobody going to say, well, this is right for me. I mean, the reality is that the world doesn't even work that way. The only place people try to make it work is up here. They try to convince themselves. But you know what? The sun comes up and it's the same sun I'm looking at that everybody else looks at. And the moon comes up, it's the same moon we're all looking at. We're all walking on the same earth and we all have the same clouds above our head. And we're all headed for death and we're all aging and we all have to eat if we're going to live and we all have to breathe if we're going to live. And it's a reality. And the reality is there is sin, there is right, there is wrong, there is a God we have to answer to. It is appointed unto everyone to die and then the judgment. And we've got to stand before Him. And the reality is this: there is only one way of escape. There is only one way to God. There aren't many ways to God. There's just one. And if you don't take that one way, you are damned. You lose it all. You do not have eternal life except by the way, the truth, and the life. And there is no other way to God except through Him. And people can say whatever they want. And they can look at this book and say, well, it was written by men. But you know what the reality is? The reality is that yes, they'll say, well, you believe that book, you don't have any proof, but what's in that book? But the reality is God has preserved this book, and the reality is that the Spirit of God has convinced many of us in this room that that is the reality. And you know what? If the Spirit of God doesn't convince you, then you won't be convinced. You'll come up with all sorts of delusions. Why? Because man without the Spirit loves to believe a lie. And he's constantly running from God. He wants to deny God. And you know what? He's trying to suppress the truth. And that's exactly what Romans 1 says. Claiming to be wise, he's a fool. And he says all sorts of foolish, idiotic things that don't make any sense. He comes up with all sorts of things. We've talked about it in this Genesis series. Man constantly coming up with his theories, coming up with his ideas. And he can so flippantly talk. But I'll tell you, the day is going to come when those men's mouths, those women's mouths are going to be shut. And they can stand there and talk all about relativity and this is right for me and subjectivity and whatever. But when they stand before that God and He tells them to depart from them, there's going to be an absolute there. They will absolutely go into the lake of fire. And they can seek to delude themselves and put themselves to sleep in this life, but there are absolutes. And you know what? It's like everything. Just because the world's out there saying a lie doesn't mean we cater to it, and it doesn't mean we debate on their level. If they say, I remember being at the college campus, and I said, if you don't accept this Christ, you are going to die and perish and go to hell. And this girl said, I don't believe in hell. You can go stand up on those train tracks and say, I don't believe in trains. And you can stand there and watch that train come at you. You can turn your back to it and say, I don't believe in trains. But
it reminds me of that proverb about not answering a fool according to his folly. And referring to Romans 1, like they know that what they're saying is not true.
The truth is, there's death. And the truth is, eternity is written on our hearts. And the truth is, we have consciences. And the truth is, we know there's right and wrong. And we have a sense of it. And those people that want to talk all this subjectivity, they're the first ones to squeal like little girls when they get wronged. You see, there is a sense of right and wrong. We have a sense of when somebody does us wrong. And we can try to deny that, we can try to ignore that. The problem is, these people end up far more arguing with themselves because they're too much inside them is wired to know the truth and sense the truth. So they constantly end up fighting against themselves.